The first time I ever saw Grace cry, she wasn't standing in the rain, and she wasn't holding flowers from a ruined romance. She was standing barefoot on my front porch in Cedar Falls, Iowa, wearing an elegant green dress that looked completely out of place against the quiet suburban street. Her mascara had run down her cheeks, her hands were trembling, and before I could even ask what had happened, she whispered the 5 words that changed both of our lives forever. She looked at me with eyes full of fear and hope, and asked if she could stay with me, just for that night. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances can change someone's life, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a thoughtful comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that may need them today. I had lived next door to Grace for almost 3 years. We exchanged waves while collecting the mail, shoveled each other's sidewalks during winter storms, and occasionally shared coffee on Saturday mornings. She worked as a pediatric nurse at the local hospital, while I owned a small woodworking business from my garage. We weren't close friends, but we were the kind of neighbors who quietly looked out for one another. I knew enough to recognize that something was terribly wrong the moment I opened my door that evening. Instead of asking questions, I simply stepped aside and welcomed her in. Sometimes kindness begins by offering silence instead of curiosity. She sat at my kitchen table, staring into a mug of hot tea without touching it. The room was quiet, except for the ticking clock and the soft hum of the refrigerator. Minutes passed before she finally admitted that the date she had been so excited about had ended with her realizing she had ignored every warning sign simply because she was tired of feeling lonely. Nothing dangerous had happened, but every promise of kindness had slowly become criticism. Every compliment had turned into judgment, and by the end of the evening she felt smaller than she had in years. She had driven home in tears, only to discover that a burst pipe had flooded part of her townhouse while she was gone. The repair crew couldn't arrive until morning, and she simply couldn't bear spending another lonely night surrounded by soaked furniture and disappointment. I made up the guest room, cooked grilled cheese sandwiches that were far from perfect, and found an old board game we hadn't played since childhood. Somewhere between burnt bread, awkward laughter, and stories about embarrassing moments from high school, the sadness on her face softened. It didn't disappear, but hope quietly returned. That night reminded me that healing rarely comes through grand speeches. Sometimes it begins with ordinary moments shared by someone who chooses not to walk away. The following weeks brought unexpected changes. Grace spent evenings cleaning and repairing her home while I helped replace damaged shelves and refinish warped cabinets. As we worked side by side, I learned about the pressure she carried every day caring for frightened children in the hospital. She learned about my own hidden struggles after losing my father and nearly giving up my business because grief had stolen my motivation. We discovered that both of us had become experts at pretending everything was fine while carrying burdens no one else could see. One Saturday afternoon, an elderly widower named Walter from our neighborhood stopped by to thank us. He had noticed us helping each other and quietly admitted that watching our teamwork had inspired him to reconnect with his estranged daughter after years of silence. That simple confession reminded me that compassion spreads farther than we ever imagine. Every act of kindness becomes part of someone else's story, even when we never witness the ending. Months passed, and life slowly settled into a peaceful rhythm. Grace became the first person to encourage me to display my handcrafted furniture at a regional arts festival. She spent weekends helping me organize displays and greeting customers with genuine warmth. That event brought enough new business to keep my workshop open through the following year. In return, I helped organize a neighborhood fundraiser for the children's wing where she worked. Watching families come together for a common purpose reminded both of us that community is built, one caring choice at a time. Neither of us rushed to define what our relationship had become. We had learned that trust grows slowly, strengthened by consistency rather than promises. One evening, nearly a year after she first knocked on my door, we sat on the front porch watching fireflies drift across the summer sky. Grace smiled and admitted that the worst date of her life had unexpectedly led her to the safest place she had ever known. I realized then that love sometimes arrives quietly, disguised as friendship, patience, and unwavering presence. Before we reach the end, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment and tell us about a moment when someone's kindness helped you through a difficult season, or when you were able to be that person for someone else. Your story may become the encouragement another viewer desperately needs today. A few months later, our neighbors gathered beneath strings of white lights for a small backyard wedding, filled with laughter, homemade food, and grateful hearts. There were no extravagant decorations or expensive celebrations, only family, friends, faith, and the quiet certainty that sometimes life gives us exactly what we need after everything we expected falls apart. Looking around at the people who had become our family, I realized that Grace hadn't simply asked for a place to stay that night. She had unknowingly opened the door to a future neither of us believed was still possible. If this story touched your heart, reminded you that hope can appear in the most unexpected moments, or encouraged you to keep believing in second chances, please consider liking the video, sharing it with someone who needs hope today, subscribing for more uplifting stories, and leaving one final message of encouragement below. You never know whose life your words might brighten, just as one knock on a neighbor's door changed ours forever.